Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Anime King. First of all guys, the link for Anime King 3 will be down in the description, so go over there and subscribe guys. New videos will be coming up very soon. But for now, I'm going to be giving you part 10 of What If Naruto was given a gift that changed everything guys. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in social media platform, and also if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Making family. And thank you for all of your help and support. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, they went to go and convince Snady, as Jiraiya was able to convince her. On the entire way back, Snady kept on doing things to aggravate Naruto, as she was still pissed off at him for what he did, as she went to downright mocking him. As they came back to the village, as she put Haku in the program just to mess with Naruto, but Haku was brilliant at what she did, and Snady and Joy enlisted her. As Snady was able to help Harrison, and he was recovering and going back to full health. As he thanked her, Snady was going to stay as she was going to take over the hospital. As time passed, as Jiraiya came to visit her, Jiraiya wanted to take Naruto on a training trip, but Naruto refused. So he didn't know what to do. Snady spoke to him though, and he got an idea. For the next couple of weeks and months, Jiraiya kept on visiting Naruto and taking him on missions all over. Every single mission, he wanted to bring Naruto on it. Yes, and he went on missions with him. As Jiraiya informed Naruto about the Akatsuki and not to do anything rash, like go searching for them. As Naruto and Jiraiya went towards another mission. As Naruto went ahead, where he came upon bodies slaughtered, it was a complete massacre. As he made his way, as he saw a man in the Akatsuki clothing, silk, back here. As he started to fight, it was none other than Hidan. Naruto literally ripped him apart, but his body, he was healing. Not as fast as him, but he was healing. As Naruto kept on pummeling the man, as he was swinging like crazy with that sight. As he ended up getting Naruto blood and stabbing himself. But Naruto pushed through it and knocked Hidan out of the ring. As Naruto let his chains, about 50 of them, attach to Hidan's body and rip, tearing Hidan to pieces. As it was only chunks left on the ground. The entire world then freeze as Naruto met Jashin. That thing that Hidan kept on talking about, his god. As it was just a thing. It wanted Naruto to join, but Naruto said no. Being immortal, no threat of ever losing or dying in a battle, that would be boring. But Jashin did something though. A symbol burned right above the fox seal on Naruto's stomach. As Naruto felt it, the fox consciousness was ripped away from its power, leaving the power alone inside Naruto so he can use it. And with that, the world returned back normal as Jiraiya came to see Naruto all bloody and messy, but his wounds started to heal. As he asked Jiraiya why he was elite, Jiraiya told him that he was facing another member of the Akatsuki and he had to kill him 5 times. So with that, time passed, as Naruto has been different, as Haku was noticed it, as he told her about what happened. That still sounded rather crazy to her. But his changed. He was not using them as wild as before. It was proficient, like an extension of himself. And he was even clashing with Nezumi, forcing Nezumi to go, well, hard. As she was resorted to throw weapons at him to stop him. First time, she never had to do that. As Saru came there and called it for her end now, as he'd been practicing for a long time. So yeah guys, that's basically that's what I left off. You guys can switch across to the place and check out for yourself. So what do you say begin this new episode? Alright, I think we can call it there, said Saru. It was just getting interesting, Naruto said, as she sheathed his blade. Training yourself to exhaustion is not always the best way forward, Saru lectured him. Naruto rolled his eyes. He probably heard that speech 100 times before. When Saru was in a talkative mood, he told Naruto about some of his exploits in Anvu. Technically, he wasn't supposed to tell anything to outsiders. Haku also felt privileged, as the man talked about his, work in Anvu, and didn't stop because she was there. Nezumi just shrugged as she gave Naruto a thumbs up. Nice, fight. As a small smile came in his face, as he turned towards Haku and walked towards her. How about a few rounds, he said. You said you had a new technique that you were curious about. She couldn't help but smiling as she told him that in one of their nightly chats, and he remembered. A technique of reducing, targeting, information in the brain, not a combat technique. Still, he said. Sorry, she said. Lady Snather requested I returned to the hospital after lunch. I followed you here because I thought it would be nice to get some reading done. As she had a scroll in her hand, her attention wasn't really on it, seeing that she was watching Naruto spar. Or maybe it was because his vest was undone. And, as her cheeks became a bit red. She's got you calling her that as well now, said Naruto. Haku shrugged. Despite your personal problems with her, Lady Snather is an incredible doctor. I learned more than I could ever imagine from her, even in such a short period of time. In truth, she and Shizune found Naruto and Snathy little arguing amusing, as they love to see when they act all childish. As both of them could be surprisingly good at causing each other misfortune. By now though, there wasn't really any hate in it or anything like that. Naruto wasn't the type to hold any grudges, and Snathy had forgiven him a while ago. They just enjoy winding each other up. Whatever, said Naruto, as Haku was still working on making Naruto admit that him and Snathy were friends by now. He looked up thoughtfully. Alright, maybe it's about time I take a mission. Haku smiled, breathing an internal sigh of relief. That meant no training tonight. Good. Try to enjoy yourself, she said. Time skip. There were 3 of them, as they were in front of a mutilated corpse of a deer. It seems they have gotten hungry, and they killed it, and they were currently eating it. As Naruto was watching them, trying to keep himself calm, ever since he, got greater control over the Kyuubi's chakra, it was difficult to ignore. It was always there in the back of his mind, begging to be used. But he had to rein himself in to make sure that he don't go overboard, as he had to keep himself calm. The Kyuubi may have gone quiet, but that simply meant his chakra was now free to use and still wild and destructive. 2 whole tails. That was how great his control had grown. He has gotten control of 2 more tails. Right now he has 7 tails at his disposal. Beyond that, he couldn't pull anymore. His body could not grasp those last amount of power 8 and 9. So he still continued to train, body and mind, until he can close those few gaps. As he filtered a bit towards his nose, as he started to sniff. The creatures were alone that killed the deer. You'd be able to smell if there were any more here. They were foul, and they smelled corrupted. It was like someone took tree sap and urinated on it. Orochimaru cursed seal. They were ugly and malformed, their skin a grayish color. These were the rejects, the ones that didn't die, but the ones that didn't really survive because they lost their mind completely. These things have been causing trouble through the era recently, killing livestock and the unlucky traveler that passed by, as Naruto was here to find out where they were coming from. Then he put them down, as he put 2 fingers in his throat, as he let out a low growl. It was one of Nenzume's trick to mimic people or creatures, as he chose a mountain lion. The cursed rejects did not care, even though mountain lions shouldn't be in this region. They only heard a potential predator, as he placed a bit of the Kyuubi's chakra into the growl, making it more loud and ferocious. That was enough for the creatures below him, as they went off pure instinct as they scattered. As he quickly created 2 clones to follow the other 2, as he went after the third, as he kept to the trees. After 20 minutes of following, he found something. The creature led into some waste disposal lab. Something that was leading off to a rocky lane. It was covered by vines and trees that were trying to loom over, but there was a fin of metal there that set apart from the earth. A chain lashed out and snapped the creature, tearing through him, quick and painless. Naruto didn't even play about with it. Saru would be proud, as he got the memories of the clones, as he dispersed himself after taking care of their target as well. That done, Naruto suppressed his chakra as he leaped down in towards the pipe. Orochimaru bases were rather uninspired. Once you've seen one, you have seen them all. All of them were designed literally the same way, twisting spiral, with grey paint walls. As Naruto walked along the ceiling, knowing Orochimaru with his traps, as it was just packed dirt, as he could feel through the earth though if there were anything there, anything hidden, but there weren't. They seemed to just be a research station. The snakes sawn in a dozen of them scattered all over the elemental nations. At first glance, they seemed to be abandoned, cursed seals. Creatures roamed the hall freely. At the same time, though, there were signs of intelligent people being here. For one thing, the long-lasting chakra candles were only about an 8 melted. They would have been replaced just yesterday, and the attacks have been going on for the last week. Someone was releasing these creatures on purpose. Probably some kind of experiment. This was too lazy to be Orochimaru's handiwork. Probably his subordinates. The candles were his guide, as he followed the ones that were mostly used up. As they led him to a large open chamber, it looked like a training ground, with high walls surrounding it. As he saw gouges littering the walls, scratch marks. Something else caught his eye, a slight glitter. A thin layer of shimmering crystal dust. It was pink. Naruto grinned as he turned towards the last door in the room, as he felt a feeling in his chest bubble. This was perfect, this was what he needed. A test to see how far he has come, to see how far she has gone. The door opened up before he could reach it though. A young man with grey hair emerged, as he had on spectacles. As he was holding a stack of papers, he glanced up as he was surprised that someone else was in here. I had wondered when the rejects had gotten notice. Your reaction was faster than he couldn't get to finish that sentence, as a golden chain ripped through his throat without mercy, flying across the room faster than he could blink. Out of the way, Four Eyes, said Naruto as a chain threw him to the side, snapping his neck in the process. He was probably dead before he hit the wall. I'm not here for you. As he raced through the complex, following the trail, as he came upon a stage, one of the cursed seal abominations were strapped to the table, dead. Gurren was standing to the side, eyeing the creature with disgust. As Naruto walked in, she heard the footsteps. That was fast, Kabuto. What? Couldn't wait to fail again? I swear, you grow more incompetent with... She paused. You. Naruto grinned. Me, he said. I hope that we will never run into each other again, she said. Naruto pouted. That hurts, you know. I have been looking forward towards our rematch. It's currently 1-0 to you, and I hate to leave the score so unbalanced. Gurren scowled, crystal blades appearing on her arms. It was faster than he remembered. Good, that means she's gotten stronger. What makes you think this will end any differently? The blonde crouched as chains snaked down his legs. Let's find out, shall we? As he sprung forward as chains, propelling him in a yellow streak. Gurren tried to slash him in half, but Naruto twisted, using the chain under his feet like ice skates, as he clashed against her crystal. As she tried to put pressure to cut them, but she could no longer cut them with ease. As Naruto spun out, chains spinned around him like a gig. The first struck Gurren on her crystal armor on her side. Then the second slammed into the exact same spot as she gasped. The third hit and it shattered, leaving her flesh exposed. As another chain smashed into her ribs with so much force, her body was sent sailing as she slammed into the wall. Gurren picked up herself quickly, but Naruto was already springing towards her. As his chain wrapped around his arms and leg, adding that spurt of power. She rotated her arms around her, calling up her crystal, as she was no focus. Her eyes widened a bit as he was still charging towards her despite her crystal defense. But at the last second he dived right over her wheel jutsu. As he landed behind her in a crouch, as two chains wrapped around her legs. She tried to cut them, but it was no time, as she was sent sailing as he spun her, as she was sent crashing into the opposite wall. She was disoriented for a moment. As she slapped her hands on the ground, crystals spreading from her touch. A massive pink wall erupted with spikes all over as Naruto was diving towards her. As there was a chain that Naruto left behind that stabbed into the floor, stopping his momentum, pulling him back. As Gurren threw as many hexagonal shuriken as she could conjure. She smirked as he was wide open. He couldn't move his chain so fast to defend him now. He surprised her though when he drew a blade from his back and block and deflect any shuriken that might have hit him. Gurren tensed. The blonde berserker that she fought before would have just tanked those and kept on coming. As Naruto flipped back as he clicked his teeth as he looked at the blade. His chains might have been able to stand up the Gurren crystal now. But normal metal was another story. It was nicked and scratched to hell. The tip had been cleaned off. Nezumi is gonna be pissed at me, he mumbled. As he threw it away, it was just dead weight now. As he rolled his neck, observing Gurren, she was still stuck to the wall, surrounded by her crystal and spires. He was certain with whatever thought that she made she could command them into whatever shape that she wished. It was truly a marvelous technique, tough, versatile, and beautiful. My sensei keep on telling me there's a place for subtlety and tact. I guess that means there's also a place. As Naruto started to draw on that energy, chains started to leak from his body by the dozen as they started to sway and focus. As they came in as one tight pack, they moved towards Guren Crystal Avalanche. She threw her hands forward as the crystal exploded forward like a living bead as they lengthened and thickened into a large, spiky shield. The Biju enhanced chains slammed right into it and kept on going. She couldn't create them fast enough as the chains ripped through them. There were too many of them when one of them slowed down, another simply took its place. As Naruto stood at the heart of it, the eye in the storm of gold, watching the pink dust cloud that expanded from the crystal destruction. Then something broke. Perhaps it damaged the crystal too much. Perhaps her strength had given out. There was a deafening crack as the crystal wall fell apart completely. Guren flew out of a dust cloud as she was shrouded in pure chakra. He had no idea what she had done, but it seemed to be completely vitalizing her. Crystal release as she slammed her hand together. A diamond crystal growing around her. One of the points aimed directly at him. Arrow of light. As she placed her hands on the diamond as the thing erupted in light. Naruto was forced to dive as a beam of pure energy exploded outwards from the tip. As it teared through the ground, instantly melting the rock, creating a large trench. As it tracked him, following a trench behind him, Guren's aim was focused on him. Naruto exploded into a cloud of smoke, 5 clones rushing out of it. Guren just manipulated their diamond though, until it was split into 5 different lights. As they were now weaker because it was not focused on one person, as they aimed off towards the clones. 2 of the clones were caught quickly. As Naruto looked at Guren, as she was getting weaker, as he could see her struggling, and the crystal was evaporating from the back. Another clone was destroyed, as the last clone threw himself in front of the original, creating a poof right in front of him, as Naruto launched right under the beam. Guren tried to adjust her aim as he was running underneath it, but it wasn't fast enough. A thin, delicate chain slipped down his arm. As they cross-pattered down his arm, down his back, along his legs, they curled around his fingers. As they coiled around his body, digging into his skin. He still hadn't completely mastered this, he just hoped it was enough. His running became faster, as when he touched the ground with the chains on his legs, the ground cracked underneath it. As Naruto leaped forward, Guren was shocked at his speed as he thrust his fist forward. To her surprise, the chains, it didn't even crack the crystal. His hand just went through it like it wasn't even there. It didn't create a massive explosion or anything, breaking the crystal apart. His hand went through it like a knife would go through a butter. As the energy that the chains had built up released, there was an explosive boom. As he was thrown back, but he was pulled down to the ground by the chains that he let anchor his feet. That was the technique that he created to replicate Tsunade's strength. As Guren was hit right in the chest by the force of that. As Guren was gone with the momentum, she flew. As her remaining crystal crashed to the ground, dissolving. As Guren's body broke through the opposite wall, as she lay there. As Naruto looked at his arm, as it went limp at his side, the fox chakra was already fixing it up. But it would be better in a minute. But he still hadn't got fully control of that move yet. As he flexed it. So, how was that? He called out, as he felt exhilarated. The adrenaline pumping through his veins, and making him feel rather giddy. He moved forward trying to get a glimpse of Guren. As he saw her silhouette, she was not moving. She lay there, slumped down. Well, looked like that tied the square up, huh? His eyebrow furrowed when he got no answers. Unconscious? Seriously? As he stomped forward, the roll of his eyes. You're going to have to up your game for tiebreaker. This is a rather poor showing. When he reached her, he frowned. She wasn't unconscious. The dust had hidden it. Her chest was entirely caved in. As Naruto moved over and placed his finger on her neck. No. As he looked at her body and the mortal wound. No, 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 no! As he slammed his fist into the floor, breaking it. Damn it, you weren't supposed to die. I wanted another round. I wanted to keep this going. You were fun. You are tough. You weren't supposed to die so easily. As he looked at his hand, it was so easy for him. The Kyuubi chakra ensured that nothing but the lethalest blow would take him down. But her, it wasn't supposed to go like this. Other people were fragile. As he heard that so much from Kuma. as he wondered how much a larger man even appreciated his own words. All of a sudden, Naruto couldn't get away from the thought. He glared at her corpse like he could make her apologize for dying too easy. But she just lied there. As he picked himself up, as he left Guren where she was, what did she care? She was dead. Moving back to the compound, the skull in his face. He still had a job to do here, clean up the rest of the cursed seal rejects. A while ago, the thought of such a hunt would have made his day. Now it just made him think of Lin, purple hair, sprayed out in a growing blood. As he was about to leave, he noticed that pink crystal must have broken off at some point. He didn't know why, so he reached down and picked it up. As he placed it in one of his pockets, there was no joy in the slaughter, no thrill in the hunt. There was just death. And the dead. Time skip, as Haku was dodging Naruto attacks. She didn't have to worry about anything too lethal because he had dulled the tips of his blade. She didn't even know that he could do that. But that wasn't the only thing wrong with the training session. Naruto lacked his usual intensity. The chains were moving slowly, and he didn't seem all that intent on pushing her. She was breezing through this exercise and he never even ramped up the difficulty. In hindsight, she should have noticed that she had a lack of interest by now. It was that mission yesterday. Ever since he came back, he seemed rather different. As he seemed rather thoughtful, troubled, thinking about something all the time. She watched the chain coming towards her as she jerked back, slowly, allowing it to trim the front of her kimono. He barely even noticed. As she dodged the chains and rushed forward. Dodging, she moved off the burst of speed. She was in front of him. Is there something wrong? It was a credit to show how far Naruto has come. After all, usually when he gets startled, he used to become a, well, hedgehog as his teammates call it. But now, he just stepped back. He blinked as he glanced towards where Haku should have been. As it seems like he's just realized that they were still training. You shouldn't have been able to get this close to me, he said. Haku shrugged. You see him distracted. He seemed ready to argue for a moment. Before he thought about it, then he shrugged. I don't know. I suppose I was. Haku sat down to the ground and she patted the spot next to her. Something can help with. He hesitated for a second before he sat down next to her. Maybe. I want you to teach me how to heal, he said. Haku blinked. That is not a situation to make lightly. As Naruto scowled back, do I look like I make any decision lightly? She just gave him a soft smile. I didn't mean that way, she said. I'm merely curious about the sudden shift in priorities. For the last few months has been nothing but getting stronger, faster, better, able to kill. The sudden 180 seemed completely out of left field. There is no shift, he said. But she still kept on smiling as he calmed himself. He looked forward. He then looked down at his hands. A chain snaked out of his shoulder and wrapped her in his hand, looking back at him like a snake. I feel like I'm only good for killing. That has never bothered you before. She wasn't normally this blunt, but she knew that nothing less would drag answers out of him. No, it didn't. It's just recently. He paused, clearly struggling with how to continue. Haku lay a hand on his knee, knowing that he only tensed for a moment. Someone died that I didn't want to. A client? He chuckled humorously, shaking his head. An enemy, actually. As he released a breath and leaned back on his hands. I always think that fight were made sweeter by life and death. I never realized the thrill that came from the exertion of it by seeing your opponent counter you and really force you to struggle for that win. She taught me that last time. This time I want to repay the favor, but I went too far. I think I didn't want to kill her. Haku frowned as she felt something tiny in her chest. Hearing him talk about this mystery woman, I suppose that is just stupid. She was an enemy. She had to die. I suppose I just wanted to draw it out as long as possible. I never thought I could be too good at killing. As he turned to Haku, I want to know how I can fix what I break. She looked at him with a bit of sadness though. I am sorry, Naruto, but you'll never be a Minik. Before he could say something, she raised her hand. This isn't something you can train for. It's not a question of control, effort, or determination, anything like that. You're a Jinjulki. Your chakra is simply too toxic for other people. As anything that he could come up with that moment died in his tongue, as he glanced away, until he just sighed and looked back up to the sky, as Haku wasn't sure that she ever heard him sigh before. I guess I should have paid more attention to the first aid, Onvu, training. He said tiredly. Well, I'll be more than happy to help you with the more physical side of things, she said. But I will never be able to properly heal like your Snavy. She shook her head and he sighed again, as she didn't like it when it came from him. So, all I'm good at is killing. I didn't say that either, said Haku. What else am I good for, he said, as a chain unshackled from his arm, and the dull tip turned into a sharp edge. Haku reached out towards the chain, as it coiled up her arm, as it rested against her skin, as she knew that he could snap her arm if he wanted to. As it wrapped her in her arm, as it felt warm. You don't want to be a healer, she said. Healers, while they have good intentions, are people who are too late. We take in the injured and fix them. Wouldn't it be better if they were never hurt at all? Medics don't have that power, she said. She looked into his eye. But you do, she said, as she stroked the chain as it unfurled from her arm. You're strong, Naruto, but strength doesn't only have to be used selfishly. When you destroy an enemy, you also protect your allies. When you take a threat out of the world, you also prevent harm from someone else. Well, my enemy is someone else's ally, said Naruto. She shrugged. We don't live in a perfect world. In fact, we live in a broken world full of many broken people, trying to make uneven pieces fit. Zabuza-sama used to tell me that we're shinobi. It's a job like any other, but instead of building houses or catching fish, we kill people. I never used to understand him, always feel like such a job should never exist. But just because I believe a job shouldn't exist, doesn't mean that others will. As long as they exist, she said, as she shifted closer to him. The world will also need people like you. I think the world will disagree with you. Most people believe that we need less killers, said Naruto. She shrugged again and could feel it because she was so close. There's a whole village over there who probably think the same way. People that tolerate the ninjas because they allow them to live easy life. They don't think for a second how many people died to ensure them their life. How many people you had to kill. I never given a thought to them when I killed. I did it for the fun. But you want to change. Naruto nodded slowly. Then, it doesn't have to be for them, she said. Or anyone else. It could be for one person if you want. Or a place, or an idea. If you let your killing mean something, then it is not slaughter. It is protection. As he looked at her. I'm a bad influence on you, aren't I? She gave him a smile as she leaned in a bit more. The worst, she said. As she kissed him. And he didn't draw back. He just stayed there. Until he leaned into the kiss, but the both of them were inexperienced, and it showed when his teeth knocked against hers. But she didn't stop the kiss though. As he felt her warm lips touch against his. And it felt nice. She then broke away with a smile on her face. Before she asked, why did you come to me instead of Lady's Navi? Well, I have my sensei. The answer would have been meaningless to everyone else. But Haku knew what he meant. As he stood, she stood up as well. She leaned and gave him another kiss, this one shorter. Thank you, she said, as he collected himself much faster that time. Never thought I'd ever hear you say that. She shrugged, neither did I. How did you go from wanting to kill me to this, he asked. Like I said, I'm broken, and so are you. I guess our jagged edges just fit together. As he laughed a bit. Speaking of broken, he said, it occurs to me that I wasn't paying too much attention. I wouldn't have been taking it easy on you, would I? Haku gulped, but at the same time, her cheeks became pink. Yeah, she was as broken as they came, but she was starting to think that wasn't the worst thing in the world. Time skip. Naruto watched Haku leave the training ground a small limp. As revelation about her feelings aside, he still wasn't going to take it easy on her. If anything, this just made him train her harder. He still wasn't sure how he felt about this. That kiss had been enjoyable. Clearly, something in his body knew the situation better than his mind. Likewise, he could not deny he had come to enjoy Haku's company. Before Sensei, he never thought he'd confide in anyone. People were strangers to him, save for the glimmer of light that was the Hokage. But the old man ran a village and an army. He didn't have much time for a 7-year-old orphan, even if he was a Jinchuriki. But Haku, maybe it was because she was completely at his mercy, he had nothing to fear from her. So he accepted her easier in his life. Trust was a really strange thing. A chain came up and wrapped her in his arm. Since he started to, sleep with Haku at nights, he didn't have a single flashback about his mother. He wasn't sure why or what it meant, but he wanted to continue. That slow, grinding loss of identity was one of his worst fears ever, as he hadn't given thought to the opposite sex's entire life, even with distractions like Nezumi and Uncle. But suddenly, thinking about Haku, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Puberty was even stranger. Young love. It's a funny thing, ain't it? Naruto spun around in a dime, chains whipping out of his body to cover his blind spots. If the intruder thought they would get a quippy remark from him, they were surely mistaken. But the intruder escaped out of range from his chains with a chuckle, giving Naruto time to give him a once over. The first thing he noticed was the Akatsuki clothing, and the purse of fate, a mask. Strange orange mask with a single eye hole. Ah, that's me, Naruto-kun. Attacking out of the blue like that. If you're here to kidnap me, you chose a really bad place for it, said Naruto. This wasn't even one of the normal training grounds. Anbu passed by here all the time. Kidnap? The man threw his hands up. No way, I'm not here to kidnap you, silly. I just wanted to talk. Naruto did not relax for a second. And it's not like we're going to be disturbed. You see, I killed everyone in nearby training grounds. The way he said it, it was like a child informing their parents that he just made them a present. He was definitely not one to relax around. And you are Naruto asks. It was always better to have an idea of your opponent. Couldn't be too reckless with S ranks. You weren't on the list of potential Akatsuki members. Jiraiya did not know all their members, but he had made some educated guesses. There weren't all that many high-level mutants floating around. Oh, I'm Toby. I'm new. I have to thank you, actually. Leader Sam only let me join because you killed Hidan Senpai. So thanks for that. You're welcome, said Naruto. Banter, threats, even psychotic rambling from Hidan. He expected those. But this childish acting was strange. So polite. You're a good boy, I think, like Toby. I wouldn't be too sure about that, Naruto said, as he tensed his body to attack. Toby had made no move to do anything so far. But you could never go easy when it comes to these guys, or any enemy, for the matter of fact. You could never be too paranoid. Keiko called him paranoid, because at the moment Naruto had 3 shadow clones in the trees. Hey now, you're not underestimating Toby, are you? That's rude, you know? All 3 of Naruto clones popped without warning. Even they were clueless to what caused it. Naruto took that as his cue to attack as he sprinted forward. Toby threw his arms in front of him. Hey, hold on a second there, hey! He curled in on himself as Naruto brought on a brutal axe kick. Nothing. Naruto simply phased right through the man like he wasn't even there. As Naruto quickly spin in case he counterattacked. But Toby did not as he pat himself down. Oh, did you see that? Before he wiggled his finger. Just kidding. Pretty good for a newbie, huh? Naruto pulsed his chakra but nothing changed. Toby crossed his arms in front of his chest, making a buzzer noise. Nope, not a genjutsu. Nice guess though. Naruto used a chain to score a line across his arm just to be sure, but nothing changed. Still, there had to be a trick to it. People just in the past through other people, but there was one way to check. As he moved forward once again, chain to extend to cover his guards. Oh come on Naruto, can I just want to talk, yeah? Don't worry, said Naruto. You will still be able to talk. Toby bounced for a moment as his chain snapped forward. Yeah, that's so... Hey, wait a minute. That's a threat, isn't it? Said Toby. As Naruto's chains lashed out. Oh come on Naruto-kun, didn't we already say that this wasn't going to... Silence. Toby was shocked as hell. Well, Naruto could not see it, as the chain had pierced his arm and stomach. As blood dropped to the ground. What? Naruto pulled on the chains as they ripped out of Toby. As he nearly fell down, but he caught himself as he placed his hand on his stomach. Impossible, he coughed. More blood leaking from under his mask, staining his chin as he looked at Naruto. Naruto was too confused by this to really make sense what was going on. Was the man really so surprised that he could actually bleed? What kind of S rank was this? He never got an answer as Toby started to swirl around inwards towards his eye. A moment later he was gone, sucked into a whirlpool of air. As Naruto's eyes narrowed and looked around, wondering if this was some sort of trick. When nothing happened for a few more minutes, he relaxed, as he made his way back to the village. With that teleportation trick, it wasn't hard to figure out how he came into the village, but that wasn't the only question on Naruto's mind. Naruto warned the Hokage immediately. Anbu teams had been mobilized to make sure that Toby, Naruto was sure that wasn't his real name, was not in the village. As the Anbu teams found nothing, Naruto was a bit concerned by the behavior at the end. That childish demeanor of his just slipped away like it was all some sort of act. But to what end? All he could do now was go over what he saw, after relating it to Jiraiya, of course. Jiraiya seemed just as troubled at bite, not recognizing anything from the limited description that Naruto gave. He seemed thoughtful about the transportation technique, but he said that he needed time to check over something. As Naruto found himself wandering the village, looking for a distraction, as Haku was busy now with her hospital work, as he felt his teammates before he even spotted them, as Teiko dropped down beside him. He was out of his Anbu uniform, green shirt, black pants, and a hat. So, he said with a giggle in his tone. So, said Naruto as Saru landed on the other side, as he was wearing a white gi. He could have easily passed for Hyuga. His eyes were even a bit pale. I believe my colleague was asking how things are going along with young Haku, Saru said, as Teiko giggled. We saw you two kiss, Kuma announced as he joined the group at the back. As Naruto turned, as he was wearing a yellow vest and a red shorts, the man never truly grew out of his underfighting grown days. Despite the clothes looking ridiculously small on him, perched on Kuma's shoulder Nezumi, dressed in a surprisingly feminine pink kimono. As she gave my thumbs up, she also gave my wink but looked rather weird on her neutral expression. Do you guys spy on me all the time? Naruto asks. Teiko grinned, placed the armor on Naruto's shoulders. Only when we're in the village, kid. As he then glared at Naruto, as he had to raise his arm to wrap around Naruto's shoulder. Damn it, you're taller than me now. Ha, said Kuma. Teiko is the smallest again. Teiko turned, but he saw Nezumi smirking at him. Not you too. My sweet Nezumi-chan, as he had to dodge a shuriken that she threw towards him as he recovered. So kid, how far did you get? The others wouldn't let me stay after you guys started. You will let your old pal know all the Jew's secret, right? Was it good? Was she good? As Naruto did not turn, as he didn't know why, but his cheeks were a bit red. We weren't snugging, he said. Teiko grin only grew. I beg to differ, kid. I got pictures. As he had to jump back as Shades tried to snap his camera. I bet a certain master of books, of those books that I love so much, would want to get his hands on these. As Naruto calmed himself. Picture of two underage teens kissing. Teiko took it in stride as he just smirked. So, you admit it. As Naruto and Nezumi started to throw shuriken after him. Meanwhile, Obito stumbled out of his kamui dimension as he ripped his mask off and threw it across the room. The swirly Masetsu rushed into the room. Ah, young master, what have you done now? Obito growled as he clutched on the wound in his stomach. He was less worried about his arm. The grafted flesh was easily replaced and felt no pain. Shut up and heal me already. Swirly sighed as his body opened up. As Obito climbed in as Zetsu closed over his wound and started the healing process. So, what happened to you anyway? The strange creature asked, even though his head was unfurled. He had no trouble speaking. Lucky shot, Obito snarled, wincing when the action irritated his wound. Must have been to catch you outside their kamui. Hey, they damaged your stomach. That is the part that make poo, right? Obito ignored the creature disturbing fascination with body removal. As he staggered over to his bed, the underground hideout that he transported himself to was Spartan, but it had the essentials. As he idly wondered how Madara had, well, survived. After going through the luxuries that he received as Uchiha clan head, but then he wondered how and why Madara did a lot of things. It didn't matter now, the bastard was dead, and Obito hoped that he stayed that way. He pulled his mind back to the present as he scowled. He called a lucky shot, but it was nothing of the sort. His kamui had been active, but that brat Chain ignored it like it wasn't even there. As it made him remember his sensei wife. But of course Kushina would have never used him so violently. Flashback. Oi, Kakashi, get me out of this stupid thing, Obito said. Kakashi, I said let me down, you bastard, as he struggled, but the thin loop of ninja wire tightened around his ankle. He couldn't even cut it with a kunai. Damn Jonin's getting all the best gear. Damn Kakashi for being such a damn prodigy that he got to be a damn Jonin so damn quickly and mess up Obito's damn life. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. I don't think that is proper language for a young, growing ninja. The wire was severed as he twisted and landed on his feet. A small miracle. As he looked to who spoke. Oh, Kushina-san, you see He trailed off as she started to laugh as he rubbed the back of his head and grinned, not wanting to meet her eye with his cheeks as red as her hair. As he looked towards the construct coming from her back, there was no doubt how she had released him. Whoa, is that one of your chakra chains? She looked at them. Oh, these? Minakan told you about that. As he nodded happily, Minato-sensei was always talking about his fiancée. When he got into a thoughtful mood, or wondering what name he should give his next technique, Obito-sensei was a unique man. He told us that they were like some super family special Uzumaki technique. Kushina again a healthy blush at that as she looked at the changer aside more fondly. Well, I don't know about special, but Mito-san did often say something like that, as she seemed to dwell on that for a moment before shrugging. To me, they're just another way I can protect my precious people. Obito grinned as he remembered something else their sensei had told them. And steal bowls of ramen, right? With her warm, motherly-like appearance, it was almost easy to forget that she was a dangerous Kunoichi in her own right. He was given a reminder she crossed distance so quickly, it was like she used her fiancé technique. What was that, Obito-kun? Her hair splitting into 9 parts and sway ominously. Oh, nothing, Kushina-san. Nothing. As she smiled, stuck her tongue out at him. I thought so. In the flashback, Obito shook his head at the memory. The past should stay in the past until he got rid of it completely. Special, huh, he thought. Still keeping secrets right to the end, sensei. As he planned how to deal with this. Sensei's son, no, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, was too dangerous to leave alone. The Akatsuki was still not ready to move on all the Jinchurikis, and the 9 will have to be one of the last. But that didn't mean they had to sit on their hands in the meantime. As he considered who to send, Sasori has been getting antsy, but he dismissed that idea quickly. They still haven't found the puppeteer new partner since Orochimaru betrayal. Besides, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki already showed that he could kill someone as tenacious as he done. Sasori's brand of immortality would not protect him either. No, there was no sense on holding back the big guns on this one. Time to pull out the big guns. It's time for Nagato to step forward. Time skip. Do you have to be so moody all the time, Kid? Jiraiya asks, as the both of them will walk along the mark of the Fire Nation. Oh, because I have so much to be happy about, said Naruto, as Jiraiya pried him right in the chest. And what exactly do you have to be unhappy about? Your training is going well, you have unparalleled control of your Bichu for your age. You're nearly tall enough that I'll have to stop calling you Shrimp. And I heard things are starting to heat up between you and your little sub-friend. Best of all, you get to be out here with me on this glorious day. As Naruto couldn't believe it, but he was actually getting used to Jiraiya. Buffoon attitude. Yes, out here on a mission with you. The track records for my mission with you always lead to see me bored, wanting to kill somebody, or actually killing somebody, or getting attacked by the Akatsuki, or some combination of above. I wonder which one will it be today? Well, that's a pessimistic way of looking at it, said Jiraiya. But if you're that concerned about getting attacked, not what I said Naruto, but Jiraiya, continue on. Then you'll be happy to know this will be as boring as they come. Just some border dispute up in the way in the north. Normally something I wouldn't trouble myself over, but when it comes to Rice Country, I'm always a bit cautious there. Old Snake Face can be a tricky subject. Or probably you just don't want to be at the village right now. Why would you say that, said Jiraiya. Well, I notice your sensei has been hounding you on being his successor. Are you probably avoiding your sensei? These missions you have been taking me on has been increasing recently. You can't prove that, said Jiraiya. Still haven't convinced or tricked Lady Snatty to consider it. He stressed the lady part. She has been anything but a lady since returning. She was still walking around in her younger body, getting a kick out of ordering people who was looking to be twice their age, while being twice their age herself. Well, still working on that, said Jiraiya. Why the sudden interest though? Have you finally seen light and realized how much of a kick-ass Hokage I'll be? Naruto snorted. You wound me, kid. Who else will make a better leader? What about the Hanvu commander, said Naruto. He had only met Okami a few times, but the man was supposed to be the very best of what Hanvu represented. Strong, discreet, organized, loyal. Every Hanvu was supposed to aspire to that mass. But that grump, he would turn the village into a nightmare in weeks. He's good, but he's no people person, that's for sure. What about Shikaku, said Naruto. The head of Naruto clan is supposed to be a genius, able to think on his feet and quickly. Maybe, if the war was a shogi board. Shikaku is a good tactician, but he's not the best fighter. What about Guy then? Naruto immediately regrets saying that. It had been the first thought pop into his head when he thought about strength. There was no question Guy was strong, but the thought of him being Hokage, he didn't even want to imagine that scene. Don't joke about that, kid, Jiraiya said. We will always be wearing ninja, tight spandex, and screaming about youth. Okay, then what about Kakashi? A few years ago, I might consider him a candidate, but the more I hang around him, the more I realize he has a boatload of issues he needs to work out before leading anything so big. Asuma, said Naruto. Good connections, not strong enough. Tento? God, that's a publicity nightmare. Right to happen. Hyuga Hayashi. Balancing. Clan politics is hard enough without throwing in a wrench like that. That's it then. So why do you think Snatty will be a good candidate if you shot down all the others near the axe? Well, she's incredibly strong, Jiraiya said. And despite her manner, people like her. She's got the heritage for it with her grandfather and granduncle. She was trained by a former Hokage, and she has the endorsement of a Sanin. She's also an alcoholic. Pass all of her paperwork off to her subordinates. Solve most of her arguments with threat or outright violence. And she doesn't want the job, said Naruto. Jiraiya said in a sagely manner. But sometimes the person best suited for a job is a person that never wanted to begin with. Better than someone like Danzo, that's for sure. Besides, kids, I know Snappy. She acts surly and disinterested, but I know that she'll make a wonderful leader if she just gave it a chance. Sometimes, we all know what people are capable of. Responsibility is thrust upon them, and people call me oblivious, said Naruto. You better be careful. Your persona was slipping for a moment, said Naruto. Jiraiya simply grinned. No idea what you're talking about, Shrimp. Thought you said I was too tall to call me that now. Almost too tall, Shrimp. I feel like we got off topic there. We were talking about what had you so... It happened so suddenly. One moment they were talking, Next moment, Jiraiya pushed away Naruto. As if in slow motion, Naruto watched a thin black rod pass right by its vision. If Jiraiya hadn't thrown him back, it would have pierced right through his arm, and he had noticed a thing, as it slammed into a tree over the other side, and ripped into it, and tear a large chunk out. If that had hit him, well, it wouldn't kill him, but he might not have an arm anymore. The fact that he did not notice it until it was too late was very concerning. As quick as ever, Jiraiya-sensei, a voice said, as Naruto snapped his head around. But guys, be in subscribe right here. If once next part of this, I don't know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But I'm over now. See you guys soon. Peace.